This is George Dionne with Metal Express Radio, and I'm here with Chaz West of Resurrection Kings. How you doing today, Chaz?
All right, George. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. If I knew absolutely nothing about Resurrection Kings, how would you describe the band's music to me?
I think it's a combination of, it's almost the old school, Dio, obviously, because of had Vinny and Goldie, their influence, and, the Dio Rainbow thing, the little Deep Purple, and of course, because of, some Zeppelin, because of my influence, my background. So, the Zeppelin bit. So I think it's, I would say that's probably a good combination. Throw it all into a blender and mix it up, and there you go.
The new album, Skygazer, comes out on Frontiers Music on July 16th.
All right.
It's been 5 years since the debut album. Had you guys always planned to continue making albums, or was this originally conceived as just like a studio project and then see where it goes?
Well, yeah, that's how it really was conceived. It was a studio project that actually Serafino, the president of Frontiers, put together. And then we continued, but these were we started off with songs that Goldie and I had written 5 years prior. And we tried to do something with, and it didn't work out. And he got busy doing Dio Disciples, and I was doing some other things. I think at the time I was doing Lynch Mob, then I did Jakey Lee, stuff like that. So that it never really transpired until, Serafino contacted Goldie and said, I'd really like to do something. And he heard some of the songs, and he liked a few of them. So it kind of, developed from there. It was great. We always thought maybe we would do a second record. Of course, everything changed in 2020. We were supposed to have done the record, I think, originally like 2018, but it didn't work out, which actually was a blessing in disguise for me because, my record, Westbound Volume 1 on Frontiers Music also came out in 2019. So I was very busy with that and promoting that and going out. So it was like I was glad it got delayed, and I thought it was going to be 2020. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, so there went that.
You mentioned that you and Craig Goldie, before forming Resurrection Kings, were working on music prior. How did you guys meet?
We've known each other for years. I toured with Dio when I was with Bonham. So was he? Yeah, he was playing guitar on one of the tours I did. So that's how we originally met. We just said, let's get together and write some songs. We were trying to do a band at the time. And like I said, things happen in careers, and it didn't quite work out. So, but we always had these songs, and we always basically kind of like, we're going to do something with, at least a few of these songs eventually. That was the plan. And then, of course, we got offered this opportunity through Serafino. So, there you go. And the rest is history, as they say.
When it comes to the new album, Skygazer, how did you put this album together songwriting-wise? Does Craig do most of the music, you do the lyrics, or do you guys
I really didn't have much to do with the writing on this one because I was really busy with Westbound, because they did it all like in 2019. Pretty much 2018, 20, and I was really busy with that. And so I didn't have much to do. It was mainly Craig and the producer. But I did the record during the pandemic. I did all the vocals for it. We recorded. We couldn't record together, obviously. We couldn't be in the same room. So, the producers in Italy and, Alessandro and the rest of us are spread out all over California. So that's how it was done this time. Like I said, the first record I did have, I even co-wrote the first single. And, that's how the whole band developed. But this one, no. This was different.
All right. So rather than asking you what the songs are about, I'll go with kind of what are your favorites that was presented to you from Skygazer.
Well, I did like the title track. I thought that was good. That's the first single. Again, I don't have the listing in front of me, right? I wish I did. There was this other song. I got Demons, Angry Demons. I really like that one.
Yeah.
And then there was kind of there was another one that was kind of not really a ballad, but it probably appealed more to the female persuasion. So right. Yeah. So I liked that one too. I thought that was good.
I have to always throw in those ballads.
Oh, absolutely.
Not.
We don't want just a bunch of dudes at the shows. You want to see some pretty ladies also. So
Have you and Craig and Vinny talked about possibly taking Resurrection Kings on the road, whether it's for a mini tour or just maybe a festival or something like that?
Not as of yet. Right now, because things just opened up again, and I know he's got some Last in Line shows. I mean, Vinny I'm referring to, and I believe Goldie's got some Dio Disciple stuff that's going to be coming up, and I've got Westbound stuff that's coming up, so, and a few other things. So, that's not something that's, a priority on our minds at the moment. I'm not saying it's out of the question. Anything's possible about either, the end of this year or next year. You never know. Of course, last year, with what happened, it kind of put a spanner in the works, or a monkey wrench, as they say here, as far as touring and doing shows or anything. So everybody's kind of trying to just catch up with what was supposed to happen last year. So, yeah.
With the whole catch-up, I mean, a lot of you guys on the Frontiers label and other labels, you have multiple bands. So, I mean, once the floodgates open back up, it's like, well, I can't tour with all three of these guys.
Yeah, you got it.
Make that work.
Nail on the head. Exactly. So it's like, what you got to take where the opportunity presents itself and, what looks like the best way to go and priorities. So that's where we're at right now.
The producer of the album, Alessandro Del Vecchio, is pretty much the in-house producer for Frontiers, and he writes a lot of albums for a lot of guys. He played bass on this album as well. So the first question of that would be, what happened to Sean Mcnabb?
I think we still want to use Sean for live shows. He was busy doing some other stuff, and the timing, from what I understand, because I wasn't aware of this until later, that he wasn't going to be on the record at all. It was basically just a timing problem, and it didn't work out for him to do the record when we had to do it. But yeah, as far as like, if in the future, if there's going to be any live shows, definitely I think Sean would be considered playing bass. Maybe Alessandro, depending, plays keys. So, if that worked out, who knows? So,
have you worked with Alessandro before on Frontiers?
Just on the first Resurrection Kings album, because that was it. That was the first time I worked with him. Was there anything else? No, I think I did. No, Westbound I didn't do with him. I did that with Roy Z. So yeah, that was my. But like I said, the first single on the first Resurrection Kings record was called "Living Out Loud." That Goldie and I wrote that together. We had written that years prior.
Okay, the band is frequently compared to Dio, mainly because, as you mentioned, the connection with Craig Goldie and Vinny Appice. I don't really hear a lot of that, but maybe it's there. I think it's just because
it's not. Yeah, it's
a little bit. Blatantly. You got your own voice.
Well, yeah, I don't. I mean, Ronnie was my mentor. I loved him. And he kind of took me under his wing. I first met him when I was with Bonham, and we toured in South America. About 1997, and he was backstage, and I knew Pilson a little bit. He was playing bass at the time, and Vinny. I just previously met, like at the hotel, like a night or two prior, and he's like, "Hey, who's that kid singing with Bonzo's kid?" And then he said, "Oh, that's this guy Chaz. He lives in L.A." He goes, "Oh, he lives in L.A. Wow, I'd like to meet him." And one thing lets tour manager came to me after the gig, and of course, I was on a major high because we just played in front of 50,000 people or more, and the biggest audience I'd ever played to at that point in my career. And he said, "Hey, so you're going to hang out?" And I'm like, "Of course, And he's like, "Okay, well, when we're done," he goes, "Ronnie and I are going to go this way, and the band goes this way. You come with Ronnie and I, because he wants to meet you and talk to you." I was like, "Wow, okay." And he spent like 2.5 hours with me, backstage. They were playing football stadiums, and what you call soccer stadiums here. And, it's just a cement floor and a wooden bench and, metal lockers. And, he came in, he brought in a bottle of vodka because, Ronnie was drinking vodka tonics on stage, still sings his ass off. And he goes, "Yeah, man," poured us a drink, and just the two of us. And then Ronnie pulled out a joint and said, "You do this?" And I was like, "Well, not when I'm singing, but sure, right now, why not?" And, the next 2.5 hours, he spent he complimented me, and he told me just what I just told you, the reason why. He said, "I heard you from backstage. I was wondering who you were." And some of the guys said they kind of know you. And And he goes, he complimented me and he gave me advice of what to do, what not to do. And, some of it made even more sense later on in life. At that point, maybe I was a kid, full of piss and vinegar who thought he knew it all. But, and from that point on, he kind of, took me under his wing and gave me his phone number. And, anytime you need any, advice or help with something, don't hesitate to call me. And, and that was till he passed. I last saw him right before he got really ill. So with at Vinny's birthday party, the private party they had. And that was the last time I saw him. But even that, he really was a real mentor.
That's excellent. It's good that he did something like that for you because he didn't have to.
He didn't have to. Exactly. It's like, sitting backstage with me, an unknown kid for 2.5 hours. So yeah, it really made a lasting impact on me, and I kind of learned what to do, what not to do, and how to, he always treated people really decently. Everything I saw, in public, it didn't matter who you were, and he didn't judge, and that was really cool.
Was there any one thing you took away from your time together that you kind of carry with you in the industry?
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, treat people the way you want to be treated, I guess. What to do, what not to do. And then, of course, I realized what he was trying to tell me, which maybe like I said, I didn't quite get until later on when I really thought about it. And he was kind of comparing at the time when I was with Bonham, with the Jason Bonham Band, and he was kind of comparing that to when his first break was with Rainbow after Elf, which, did a little bit, but he was kind of saying this might not last, but you've got it and you can go on to do other things like I've done. I think that's what he was trying to say. And it definitely made sense later on, like I said, and I followed that advice from that point on and said, okay, yeah, it's not every band ends up like Led Zeppelin or Aerosmith, where they just stay together for 30 years, and that's all they do. You know what I mean? Not every band is that fortunate, or not every vocalist is, that fortunate where it just works out, where it's a long-term career, and you don't have to go from this band and maybe go to this band doesn't work out after a while and you have to go to something else, or eventually do your own thing, which I'm doing now, which he was able to do also after Rainbow and Sabbath, So, yeah, I think that was the main thing I took away from that meeting.
Excellent. And you also have mentioned Westbound as also on Frontiers Music, and your debut album under that moniker was in 2019 called Volume 1. I'm assuming Volume 2 is coming?
Yeah, we're probably looking at doing that next year. Like I said, we're trying to make up some of the shows that we were supposed to have done last year. Everything, we broke the ice. The record came out and it got really good, reviews and overall reaction. And so we did some shows, throughout the U.S. and it went over really well. And then I had a bigger agent that was going to book us for 2020. And, what happened?
Shit hits the fan.
The shit hits the fan. The rest, as you know. So we're kind of trying to make up some of those shows now that things are opening slowly but surely, throughout the country. Of course, everybody's clamoring to do, there's less venues and everybody's clamoring for the, limited amount of shows you can do for the, the remainder of the year. So we're looking at that into next year, but also probably, I would say more towards the latter part of next year as far as doing Volume 2.
You've sang live with a bunch of different bands. You were in Sweet as a live performer, Diamond Head, Lynch Mob, Red Dragon Cartel. Anybody call you up recently and be like, hey, we need a singer for the road?
No, not recently. Because like I said, nothing was happening.
It's coming. 17 months. Nothing was happening.
Obviously, if Jimmy Page, Brian May or Joe Perry calls me, I'll be there. A year or two ago, they asked me that, and I said, or also the late, great, Eddie Van Halen a couple years ago, that would have made a lot of, would have mattered to me a lot. But no, right now, my, my main push and my main concern or focus is Westbound, getting that back out there again. Westbound, and because like I said, we've broken the ice, things were just starting to happen, and then everything stopped. The last thing we did was NAMM 2020, and then of course 2 months later we had some shows starting in April 2020, and then everything stopped in March. So
It looks like to keep busy, you got this little California thing going on called the Chazmanian Devils.
Oh yeah, that's good fun. Yeah, it's mainly the guys from Westbound.
Yeah.
And then a couple of my friends, a friend of mine who plays bass with Jack Russell's Great White and Dan McNabb. And yeah, it's just, we're just doing covers. I just wanted it like an all-star jam kind of thing. And that's what it is. Not just anybody off the street can get up, you know. 'Cause I didn't want that kind of fucking nightmare, you know. So, yeah, it's fun. You know, I timed it so everything here in California, or in Los Angeles, and county anyway, open as far as releasing all restrictions last, was it June the 17th, right? June 15th, excuse me. June 15th. So I did it, the first one, for the Thursday, June 17th. And it was great. It was a whole lot of fun. It was packed. Everybody really, I wanted to make it a party to celebrate live music again and being back together. And there's no more wearing, you don't have to wear a mask inside. And there's no, you can go to the bar and actually order a drink, you know. Yeah. And then, you know, it was great. A lot of friends came out. My friend Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction, he came and played a couple songs. It was great. So I'm going to do it again this Thursday. It's a place called Universal Bar and Grill. Yeah, that's just a side fun thing.
Awesome.
Keep the pipes up too.
Yeah, you're keeping yourself busy. You got the Chazmanian Devils. You're working on getting Westbound back out there, and you got the new album by Resurrection Kings, Skygazer. Right. That's all I got for you today, Chaz. I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely, George. It's a pleasure talking to you and chatting with you and all your listeners. Look for, Resurrection Kings record, Skygazer, and also, Westbound will be out on the road here, there, and everywhere throughout the country within, the next 6 months. We start probably in a few weeks. So, yes, keep on the lookout.